Hello, welcome to my podcast, Empowered to Thrive. I'm so glad you joined me today. I'm your host, Corrine Powell. I'm an intuitive mentor, and I help people pleasers to find happiness, embrace courage, and experience peace of mind. But say you're not a people pleaser, and you're desperate for change and not sure how to make it happen, then I'm here to help. In this space, you're going to find motivation to live a life full of joy and resilience. We'll talk all things inner wellness. And because I'm a mom, we'll throw in some knock-knock jokes. Just kidding. We'll talk mom hacks and parenting sometimes. Whether it's your first time here or you listen week after week, I am wanting you to know, as I'm always wanting you to know, that your life is so significant. You are so valuable. And I, for one, am happy that you are alive. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. And would you do me a favor? Would you go ahead and subscribe to my podcast? Give me a good rating and write a written review. Any of those three things would help me so very much, and I would appreciate it. Enjoy the episode. I am so excited for you to get to enjoy this conversation that Courtney and I had together. Courtney Spencer is a life coach, an attorney, and a mother. She helps women who are overwhelmed and stuck and busy take control of their lives and finally achieve their goals and dreams. She is both a cheerleader and accountability holder for her clients, partnering with them to break through the barriers that have been keeping them from achieving the call on their lives. You're going to benefit so very much from what Courtney shares about how to manage time. Enjoy. Everything you have to tell us about managing our time well, and I'll let you take it away.
I'm not the master of time, so I've had to become the master of technique. So I'm the person who tends to be like 5 minutes late, over schedule. In my law practice, I have staff that take care of that. And in my personal life, I've come up with techniques. So everything I'm teaching you, I'm not one of those I am type A, but wonderfully organized people who just was born with these systems. I'm definitely the person for those people who struggle in this area, because I can identify. And I've probably I have to say I've tried everything, and every day I try something new. So I think that, or just know that the information I'm giving you is based on true research. Tried every planner, every app, every technique, coaches, you name it. But what I have found is, and I agree, this is not my philosophy, this is said by many, many people much more skilled than me, that if you don't manage your time manages you. Yeah. And if you don't manage your time, you're just reacting and putting out fires versus moving the needle forward in your own life. So taking control of your time is huge. Taking control of my time is life-changing. When I just sort of let things happen, life happens, things go forward. I do all the things, but I don't actually get to where I really want to go. So I guess what I really want to say about time management is, it sounds super technical and super fussy and restrictive, but it really is actually the most freeing thing you can do is come up with a really good way to manage your time so you can manage your life.
Yeah, so I'm interested because I feel like that's one of my things, even because, we have the kids at home, homeschooling them. And there'll be times I think if I just did our schedule differently, it would make a huge difference. So I'm really curious to learn what you're going to share.
Yeah. And I mean, especially everybody right now is juggling many things, even as kids go back to school.
Yep.
No matter what's happening. I apologize for the phone ringing.
Okay.
Time management. I'm like, family, you need to make sure everything is organized so I can do this call. So everybody's wearing more hats than we ever used to wear. And So it's really important to know that, and to know that you can plan for that. You can plan whether you have a 40-hour 9-to-5 work week. This phone is like forever ringing. Or if you have like I have 2 businesses, so I have 2 different schedules, or if you're homeschooling and so every day is different, then you can do these techniques. So the number one thing I want to say is planning is key. You have to plan. You have to plan weekly and daily. I do best when I actually plan half-hour increments, but it really doesn't matter. But overall, in addition to all of that, is block scheduling. Block scheduling is a godsend. When I heard of it, I was like, yes. Actually, when I first heard of it, I'm like, that's crazy. My life is so unpredictable day to day. How could I put blocks around it? But what it does is it forces you to create some predictability. So I'll give you an example of mine. And when I teach this, I show people my actual schedule, which changes. So there's Sunday planning because every week is very different for me. But in general, the big blocks are Monday and Tuesday are coaching and ministry school when that's going on. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are law all day long. Doesn't mean I don't do law on Mondays and Tuesdays, and doesn't mean I don't do coaching on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but those are allocated days.
Okay.
Mornings are, so up until 10, there is the, my schedule starts usually at 6. So there's prayer, usually some exercise. It's kind of self-care in the morning. Do I always get to it? No. When I do get to it, life goes well. And then I get a block because in the morning for me, the deep work has to happen early, because by the afternoon, my brain is smushed. You know what I mean? So there's like if I want to learn a new estate planning technique, if I want to learn a new coaching technique, if I want to review, anything big, it's going to be in the morning. So then I do appointments after 10, and I do them for a set amount of time. But I don't do appointments before 10 unless there's like some extreme reason to do that, because once I get into appointments, my day's done. It's appointment. And then I have done none of the deep work that I wanted to do. Yes. So it's a time I'd set up my marketing, business planning, you know what I mean? So I really have that focused time. So that's my first block, 6 to 10.
Okay.
And then on my next block from 10 to lunchtime, we'll start, depending on what it is, whether it's coaching, whether it's law, will be work time. I have my lunch break. It's not always perfect. It's not always at 12, but that's my lunch time, which I try very hard to not work or look at social media, just really enjoy just eating, even if it's 5 minutes. Not always successful, but I try.
Yeah.
And then I have my next block. So I have an afternoon work block. And then I cut it off at 5. Now I do coaching calls in the evening for clients that have to do that. They just have no other choices. But other than that, my 5 o'clock on is my daughter and my husband. And that's it. So, it may be that she has a physical therapy appointment or something, but it's all about her. It's all about family time.
Right.
And I structure my weekends the same way. I used to, especially when I first opened my law practice and when I first opened my coaching practice, I was like, oh, you need an appointment at 9 p.m. on a Saturday? I'm your girl, whatever you want, And what happened was, did I get a ton of business? Yes. Did I not lose my family, but I didn't even know what was going on. So I had to learn. You have to do the hustle in the beginning. That's normal. But I learned that no, this is no way to live or function. And that my family, it's God, family, work, and friends are above, there too.
Yeah.
And that's the big priority. So again, it's sort of creating rhythms. I heard somebody say this recently, it's creating rhythms more than a rigid schedule. But every night for the next day, it's a rigid schedule because I know what's coming up. So on Sunday, I don't do a rigid schedule for the week, but the night before I do a schedule. At 6 a.m., I'm going to pray. At 6:15, I'm going to do this. At 7 o'clock, I'm going to do this. At 7:30, I'm going to do this. And I keep it where I can see it so that I never get lost, because I could pop on Instagram and lose 2 hours,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Or I could focus on the wrong thing.
Right. Okay. That makes so much sense, because I heard the blocks and I'm thinking, okay, that's doable and already kind of what I do. What I don't do, which would help me out a ton, is the night before when you're talking about detailing it. I can even feel how much lighter that would be, because I'd be committing to, okay, well, I've done this before where I'll set the timer of 30 minutes. I'll clean for 30 minutes.
actually, I like knowing once that timer's done, it doesn't matter what I haven't finished. I'm going to stop cleaning so I can get to the next thing I need to do.
Yes.
So that's where I feel like what you're saying, at least for me, I could implement it, and that would make a huge difference in the way the day would flow for me.
Yes, it sounds restrictive, like, oh my God, but you're not scheduling, like these are things you have to do. You're just putting it in a bucket, and you know when that, and like you said perfectly, at 8 o'clock, if that's your next time, that's the next thing you have to do. You stop what you're doing, but you can take a note and you shift it to tomorrow, and it's okay. Obviously emergencies and family and things like that take precedent, but it takes a lot of stress off you. Because a lot of times I feel like, especially when you're a big thinker, sometimes in the middle of the day, you're like, where am I supposed to be? And let me pick the most distracting thing to do instead, right? Like, oh, I deserve a couple minutes of downtime, and then everything goes. And also you don't often get, so they talk about eat that frog and do your biggest, hardest thing first.
Yep.
Because the sense of relief you'll feel is immense, and the sense of anxiety you'll feel if you don't do it, you keep putting it off, is huge. So it's like, sort of just, it's like, there's a woman, Jordan Page, who does this like Fun, Cheaper, Free. I think she has a podcast, she has a blog, she has all these things. She's really fun. And she does a block scheduling system, but she does it like when we were in school. She's like, the bell rings and you move on.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of like that, except I do it at a much smaller scale, because again, if I just say my block is from 6 to 10, again, I could be wandering around the house doing laundry when I should be doing marketing.
Right.
That's especially when you're like, I work from home.
Sure.
You can lose a lot of time. Then all of a sudden you can't stop work at 5 because you didn't do what you were supposed to do. So now you're working till 10.
Right.
So to me, the more detailed your schedule, the more clear your schedule is to you and your family, the less you have to work, because the more you get done.
Right. Makes sense. Yeah. And I know recently I've just been doing it where, because like you, there's like certain days I'm working, certain days Evan's working. And the days that I'm working, I don't plan on doing like my laundry and my housework. So the days he's working, even though I'm still like making sure the kids get their school done, I'm also adding in the laundry and the major cleaning around the house. But I feel relieved on the days that I'm working, because I'm like, well, that's not for today. Like, I don't even give it thought. Like, it doesn't really matter what's in the hamper. I'm not doing it today. I'm going to do it on the days he's working.
That's huge.
So now that we're sitting here talking about it, I'm like, oh yeah, that it creates a lot of relief, because like you said, you're ending when you're ending, or you're not doing a task on certain days or certain times.
Yeah, the expectations are clear. And that is very wise, because laundry, cleaning out junk drawers, cleaning out closets are they're also procrastination tools, right?
Okay.
We all have to do something. And it's like, well, I really have this phone call I need to make, but I know it's not going to be pleasant. But my God, I haven't organized my closet in 6 months. So let me go do that. So yes, absolutely. If you're like, no, on work days, we don't do housework like that. We tidy, but it's not the laundry, the washing the floors, the big stuff.
Right.
And you make those really clear expectations for yourself. I think it helps. Another technique that I teach is, and I learned this again, I'm not inventing anything myself. I learned it on YouTube. You take a piece of paper. You do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you make columns for each day. And then you literally write everything you have to do in no random order, everything you have to do. Brush my teeth, make sure my daughter took her vitamins, I don't know, if you have lunch with somebody, plus the work, plus the marketing, plus the whatever you're doing, and you write it all out so you can see it.
Okay.
And then on each day, because each day is different for everybody, and then you put, and sometimes it's only like one Saturday a month, it doesn't matter, you put it on Saturday. Then you write next to it, how much time do these tasks take? Another technique is to highlight like what's personal, what's work, so you can kind of see the difference. So then when you go to create your big block schedule, so your big block schedule is your master schedule. Again, it's not where you're putting like at 8 o'clock, I have a call with Sally Smith, at 9 o'clock, I have a coaching client. Your big block schedule is so you can kind of have a map like an overall map of where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
You take those tasks and now you know how long they take, and then you can plug them in.
Wow.
Because it's being realistic. Because how many times do you think, oh, I'm going to do this and it's going to take 5 minutes and it takes 2 hours, or this is going to take 2 hours and it only takes 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So because you don't really want to do it because it's a hard task. So you're like, oh God, it's just going to be too much. I just can't do it right now. So you put it off, right? So when you have a realistic, like, oh my gosh, I can do these things. You plug them in. It's also an opportunity to say, oh my God, every Tuesday I have lunch with Sally Smith, and I don't really think that's maybe the best use of either of our time. So no longer we have lunch with Sally Smith.
Yes.
Once a month, a coffee, whatever it is. And I'm making up that, those kinds of things, those connections with friends are actually very, very important. But say it's like something you do routinely, but you don't have to do. It's a great opportunity to say no.
Right.
And you could go ahead.
No, I'm just loving what you're saying. Like I can feel the freedom this brings. Yeah.
And looking, I one time, this is years ago when I first started my law practice on my own, which like 2008, I hired a professional organizer because I could not get everything done. And she came and she looked at my schedule and she said, no, you can't do all of that. You have to, you can't, like, I'm a professional organizer. I can't help you. You have to start letting go. And at the time I was on 2 different boards. I was on the library board and I was on church council. And the library board was wonderful. And I loved the people, but it's not necessarily my passion. The church council was like a huge passion. And she said, you've got to choose. And I said, I couldn't, they asked me to be on the library board. I love the people. I just joined. And she's like, okay, so what's more important, your family or this board? And I was like, and she was right. And so they were gracious, and there was like a waiting list to get on the library board. People wanted to be on it. Yeah. And it wasn't bad. It just, if I had to choose, then the church council was much more of a passion. So she taught me in that. She taught me in that idea of there is a point where it is not realistic to do the things you want to do, all of the things you want to do. And you really do have to make hard choices. Yes. And that set me on the path. It took years, but eventually, at one point I got myself overwhelmed, stressed, my body broke down, my health broke down, and I revamped everything, started coaching after I learned a lot of skills from falling apart. And I became the queen of no. Can you bake this for the bake sale? Absolutely not, but I'll give you, here's $20. You can buy something and call it mine. I'm always thinking, okay, saying yes to you means saying no to my daughter. Saying yes to you means saying no to my husband. There can be no date night now. And so I'm judicious. I'm strict about what goes in my calendar and what doesn't.
Yeah. Wow. That is awesome. You are definitely empowering all of us, because when you said it that way, like if I say yes to you, I'm saying no to this. How clear is that? You're being so honest with yourself. Yes. And I like that. That's good. I'm at a point in my life and with my business that I'm having to see in what ways I've been blocking myself in. And part of it has been by saying yes to certain things that, like you kind of said with the library and the church council, like your heart was in both of them, but you needed to let one go to free up some time. And that's where I'm at. Like my heart's in many, in the things I'm doing, but I can see that some of them are creating blocks where I'm like, oh yeah, I say I want this, but I don't even have time for this to come into my life. Right. So how can I open up these ways so that what I really want to come into my life can? And a lot of it is this, what you're talking about, very practical. What am I saying yes to? What am I saying, what am I saying no to? And how am I structuring my days, which is our life,
Yes.
Yeah.
It's huge. And oftentimes then what you're saying no to are the people you care about most.
Yeah.
Some of the best advice I heard has been the most shocking. Like, again, when I started my law practice, I wanted to be affordable. Even when I started my coaching practice, I wanted to be super affordable. And somebody said, oh, so you care more about other people's kids than your own? And I was like, oh, but she was right. She's like, if you're undervaluing yourself and working yourself into the ground and not charging what you're worth, you were hurt, you were caring about other people, because I represent children. You care about other people more than your children than you care about your own. And it was, it was meant to be shocking. And it made me rethink things, because I think women, especially many men, we walk around like, oh my gosh, I don't want to bother you, and I don't want to put you out, and oh my gosh, you shouldn't have to pay for that. We do, all of us do this, but what happens is we get ourselves in situations where we can't be everything we're called to be, and we can't be there and available for the people that we want to be there and available for, the ones we love. So it is, like I said, if you don't, it's not just manage your time. If you don't manage your life will manage you. It will happen, not on your terms. Like I said, when I got sick, when everything was going crazy, I had no control over anything. And I was just allowing everything to happen to me. And just like years were passing. And then it was like, wait a second, do I want my daughter to see this and live like this someday? No, I don't. I want to teach her by watching me admit that this ain't working, and then redesign my life in a way that works for my family, for me. And it's easy now. Like, I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, I have such a hard time saying no. And my best advice to you is just practice. You'll become a master. It's actually one of the easiest skills to learn, because once you do it and the world doesn't end and people don't hate you, and if somebody's going to hate you because you said no, they're not the kind of person that they're fickle friends to begin with,
Yep.
And you say it with grace, and you say it kindly. But like you said, if you don't, and what this professional organizer said, she said, you have 0 white space. And if you have 0 white space in your life, nothing can come in, nothing new can come in. And oftentimes your calendar is full of things you don't really want to be doing, or that are not actually, like I said, moving the needle forward. So if I'm spending all day doing work, that's great. I'm helping my clients. That's really important. But then I better spend another day on marketing, or I'm not going to have any clients. You know what I mean? So it's that mindset of, the work is joyous. Like, I like the legal work, the coaching work, the work is fun. It's easy in many ways. The harder part for me is the management, administration, and the marketing. And again, like I said, I have staff for a lot of this, but some of it I have to do on my own. And those are the tasks I put off. So I have to schedule it and commit. This is what you're going to be doing for 2 hours on Wednesday. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
And that helps with those clear boundaries. Boundaries are good with everything. They're also good with yourself.
Yeah, I love it. It's great.
And you had said something about the timer. So I was thinking for this talk, like, what are the 3 really important things because there's so many ways you can go with time management. But one was the block schedule. One was the specific schedule, but the other was a Pomodoro technique. Have you ever done that?
I don't know. I don't recognize the term. So let's see as you explain it.
Yeah, so I actually, I'm trying to think, I'm not remembering the totals. I think they're all different, but a lot of times I haven't had to do it lately because I've been very good at, it's usually when I have a big project, I make myself do it so I can do the project and take breaks. I believe it's 25 minutes of work and 5-minute break, and it's a timer. And so it tells you that, but I think some of them are like 45 minutes and 5 minutes break, or 50 minutes and a 10-minute break. So I think you can do it any way you want, but it's very clear that it's a set amount of time, and then it's a timer, and it's a forced break. And if you say to yourself, for example, I remember like when I write briefs, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do 4 Pomodoros this morning. Very different than I'm going to write 60 pages this morning, which is like, where you go. If it's like, okay, I'm going to do 4 Pomodoros, you're sort of like playing a game with yourself.
Yes.
And it doesn't seem so bad. So the timer is just a different version of that, which is, okay, this is a really big task and I'm not even going to start it because it's overwhelming. But man, if I commit to 30 minutes and actually have a stop, that doesn't sound so bad. And in times when you have more time, it can be, okay, I'm going to just make myself do 30 minutes. But if I want to do more, I can, because I really want to get this done. Same thing with exercise. Sometimes with coaching clients, I'm sure you do this. I'm like, just get on the treadmill for 5 minutes. Because once you're on it, it's so hard to get off. Getting on is the hardest part.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. That I've heard and done where, like, if it's a task I'm not feeling or not sure I want to do it, set a timer, commit to doing it for the 15 minutes, whatever it is, and then see how I feel. And you're right. Sometimes getting into it was the hardest part and it flows. And other times I stuck with my 15 minutes and then I held true to what I said to myself and okay, I don't feel like doing it anymore. But you're reconceptualizing the way you're looking at it when you're talking about doing 4 sets of those instead of writing a certain number of pages, right? And you can think about it and say, okay, I can do that. And then in the end, you still get everything done that you would have needed to. But
and you made a really important point. So if you say you're going to do it for 15 minutes and after 15 minutes you don't want to, it is very important to stop. Because if you push yourself, that's not going to work anymore. Now, like I said, if after 15 minutes you're like, I feel great, I really want to finish this task, it's very different. But you're right, you honor to yourself the promise you made to yourself. So then you can trust yourself next time. And I think that's huge. That's a very good way to put it.
This is awesome. Very practical. And I can tell you live it out. Like you own it and you're the master of it. Like it just flows out of you. I can tell. That's so awesome. Yeah, because I always feel like anybody hearing anything, if we're hearing it from someone who lives it, your words actually carry a power to us hearing it that empowers us in a different sort of way. You're not just talking fluff. You're like passionate about it. You know it works. It's proven. And it doesn't matter what someone else said, like you're doing it. So you're living proof. And so, yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And again, there are days when, I've been traveling lately, so everything's a little up in the air, but I still look at everything as blocks. Like I'm going to still return calls in this time. Like say I'm at Disney, I still have to check in. You know what I mean? Like I can never, as a business owner, as you know, you're never off, but it's not, so what happens is I can enjoy my vacation because I know until 2:00, I'm off the clock. I'm on vacation, but from 2 to 3, I'm on the phone. And so as opposed to like, oh, maybe sometime this week I'll check in. And then all week you're like, oh my God, I have to check in. The more you can put things tangibly in front of you in a schedule, otherwise your brain tries to hold things for you and you get overwhelmed. So another tip, which is not really time management, but brain management, is brain dumping. I'm sure you do that, where you just take a piece of paper, everything in your brain goes on that paper. Like you'd crack up if you saw mine. It would be like, buy wedding gift, end world hunger. You know what I mean? Like write 12 books. It's like everything that's on your mind, crazy and big or not, because otherwise your brain's like, well, don't forget, you want to end world hunger, write 12 books and buy the wedding present, right? And then it's like, before you know it, okay, well, where are my keys? Like your brain's all full.
Yeah.
You got to get it out. So I think that's one of the best techniques. And even as a daily technique is any kind of journaling, any kind of getting stuff out of your brain, you'll sleep better, you'll have more peace, because again, your brain doesn't know that it's hurting you by making you think. It thinks it's helping you. So you got to train it to say, okay, I don't need to worry about this right now. And I don't need to worry about it because now it's on paper and it's in a calendar.
Right.
So I know I'm going to buy that wedding gift. The wedding's on Friday. I'm going to buy the wedding gift on Wednesday. So I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
And that's just really huge.
Yeah. It's awesome.
So Thanks. It's all good. It's all good. And you know what? If you're not a master of your time, it's not a big deal. You can become one. If I can, right. I don't have ADHD, but I have many ADHD tendencies, which I think a lot of entrepreneurs do. You have to have the ability to think big and think about a lot of things.
Yeah.
I say you're either a forest person, you can see the whole forest, or you're a tree person. Tree people are the people that do great, like they're accountants, they're contract reviewers, that we need them, because without them, people like us would be like wandering in the streets, right? The people that have the people who make planners, but I really think you're one or the other. I'm a forest person. Sorry, I'm not a tree person, but I've become that way in the ways that matter, like time management, because again, if I don't manage my time, I have too much going on and nothing's going to get done. And I always say this when I talk, and it's true. Right now, I run 2 businesses. I have a coaching practice. I have a law practice, both active. I have been in ministry school for 2 years. I have a 15-year-old daughter, and I have more time now than I did 6 years ago when I fell apart and got really sick. Back then, all I had to do was be a lawyer and a mother and a wife. I didn't have actually half of what I have on my plate now, but I couldn't manage it well. I was a great lawyer, but it took everything out of me because I wasn't managing my nose and I wasn't managing my time and my schedule, and my boundaries were all over the place. Like, again, whatever you need, I'm here. Where now I'm very much more effective lawyer and coach and mother and wife, because I know how to say, okay, these are my priorities. I told you, God, family, friends, work. Not that work is unimportant, but that to me is like my easiest part of my life. And if it doesn't fit one of those buckets, it's just a no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we'll take it from Courtney because what you're saying is that it's doable for all of us. So we can choose to make excuses, but if we don't want to do that, then we can choose to take something from what you've told us and start implementing it. And we will be able to change our way of living. And then you said something too, like you're someone who might see the forest, but there's times you have to see just the tree.
Yes.
And I agree. I've had to remind myself that even though I might feel like, oh, but it's not really my personality to like schedule myself in, that honestly, I can still be who I am and choose to have blocks of times that I'm doing things, because it's going to be better overall for my life. And it doesn't mean that every moment is mapped out or that I can't flex when I want to. It's like the beauty of having the time management and also still being authentically whoever we are. So if anybody's listening and, they're like me where we like to flex our schedule, I think what you're saying, we can, but overall, we still have a plan. We know why we're doing what we're doing. We're, able to say no to the things we don't want to do. It's like we have our values in place and we're lining our life up with them.
Yes.
And then some of it is the nitty gritty. Okay, what are we doing from 6 to 10 a.m.?
You're directing your ship, because your ship's going to go where the wind blows if you don't direct it. You're eventually going to hit your target, possibly. It's going to take a lot longer. But if you're directing your ship, I think, yes, you are much more yourself when you're able to be really clear on what your life is going to look like. I'm like you, like you said, I'm one of those people years ago. Oh, I'm just not a planner. I'm just not a scheduler. Well, I ran myself into the ground. So yes, it is for everybody. It is not painful. You'll find more freedom, but you said it perfectly. It's always a choice. You can choose not to manage your time, but it's a choice. It's not forced upon you. And that's okay. If you're like, hey, I'd rather just let the wind blow me where I go, fine. For most of us, it's not the best or healthiest option, because most of us have dreams of something big we want to do in our life, whatever that is, and we got to steer the ship.
Yes.
It's okay if you're not a good manager of time. I am not naturally a good manager of time. You can become one. You won't become a tree person all day long. You won't lose your personality. You'll just feel a lot of freedom, like a big breath of relief. And if anybody out there wants help with time management, you can find me on Facebook, my website. Corinne is actually a very gifted coach, and she could help you with time management very, very easily. So I just wish everybody the best, and just know that you're okay. You're totally okay just like you are. This is just a technique in your toolbox that can help push the needle forward.
Yeah. And then where exactly, I'll put it in the show notes, but where exactly can they find you on Instagram or Facebook or your website?
It's Courtney Spencer Coaching. All of it is the same. So it's www.courtneyspencercoaching.com is my website. My Facebook page is Courtney Spencer Coaching. My Instagram is Courtney Spencer Coaching. So okay. I think my LinkedIn is just Courtney Spencer.
Okay, super. Yeah, go ahead and follow her, guys. All right. She's amazing.
Thank you. You're amazing.
Thanks for being here.
Here we are. We've made it to the end. What'd you think about what you heard today? Is there something you heard that you know you need to take action on? I'm one of those people who loves to not just sit and hear something, but to sit and hear and then go ahead and start implementing, taking action on what I hear, what was stirred up in me. and I encourage you to do the same. If you enjoyed today's episode, or perhaps you heard an episode in the past that really stuck with you, would you go ahead and share that with some of your friends and your family? It would mean so much to me. And also, if you want to connect with me, remember, you can always find me throughout the week on Instagram. I'm Corinne_ChangeRadically. Or you can email me anytime, Corinne@ChangeRadically.com. I'd love to be in touch. And if there's any way that I can help you, please seek me out. Until we speak again next week, I hope that you will remember, in the moments that are loud and busy, and in the moments that are quiet and still, that who you are is super important. You are valuable, and I am so glad that you're alive.